My child, calm your heart and slow your breathing for a moment, because what I am about to reveal is not light, not casual, and not ordinary. This is not a message meant to entertain you. This is a message meant to awaken you. There is a shift taking place right now that you were not expecting, and yet you have been unconsciously preparing for it for years. I did not arrive suddenly into this moment. I have been walking toward it with you through every delay, every setback, every unanswered question, and every silent tear you tried to hide from the world. Tonight is not random. Tonight is not coincidence. Tonight carries weight in the unseen that your natural eyes cannot measure. You have sensed that something was about to change. You felt pressure building without knowing why. You noticed restlessness in your spirit without being able to explain it. You have been waking up with heaviness on some days and strange anticipation on others. That was not anxiety. That was movement. That was the sound of the old era cracking beneath your feet while the new one was being formed ahead of you. You were standing between two seasons, and that space has felt confusing, lonely, and exhausting. But now that space is closing. There is an ending I have permitted, and there is a beginning I have already prepared. The ending will feel intense at first because it brings closure to a long conflict that drained your strength without your permission. The beginning will feel quiet at first because real breakthroughs often enter softly before they roar. What is ending is not your life. What is ending is the war that has been quietly trying to define your future. You wondered many times why certain struggles refused to leave. You prayed about them. You fasted over them. You spoke declarations against them. And still they lingered. You asked yourself if you were doing something wrong. You questioned whether your faith was weak. You even wondered if you were being punished. But none of that was the truth. The truth is this: some battles stay not because you lack faith, but because they are tied to a timing beyond your understanding. Their expiration date is not set by your exhaustion, but by my authority. And tonight, one such expiration has arrived. You are not about to lose what you love. You are about to lose what has been choking your progress. You are not about to be reduced. You are about to be released. You are not about to be broken. You are about to be unburdened. What has felt like an enemy standing in your way is about to be removed, not partially, not temporarily, but permanently. While you were moving through your daily routines, while you were dealing with responsibilities and distractions and emotional fatigue, something was being decided beyond the physical world. Not in panic. Not in chaos. In precision. In order. In alignment with a purpose that stretches further than your present pain. Every unseen detail was considered. Every silent prayer you forgot you even prayed was brought back into remembrance. Every promise you thought had expired was revisited with fresh authority. Nothing about this night is accidental. You have been carrying pressure in your chest that you couldn't explain. You felt financial worries creeping into your thoughts even during moments of joy. You tried to stay hopeful, but some nights hope felt distant. You kept smiling for others while quietly negotiating fear within yourself. You didn't say much about it because you didn't want to sound ungrateful. But I heard you. I saw the calculations in your mind. I felt the weight behind your forced optimism. I watched you choosing courage while your heart was tired. There were moments when you almost gave up on the idea that things could truly change. You didn't completely lose faith, but you lowered your expectations to protect yourself from more disappointment. You told yourself, maybe this is just how life will always be. And you tried to learn how to survive inside that conclusion. But survival was never the ceiling I designed for you. You were not created to barely make it. You were not formed to always struggle for oxygen in rooms filled with limitation. You were not released onto this earth to carry cycles that did not begin with you. What you inherited without choice is what I now step in to break with authority. What has followed your family for years was not random. What kept repeating itself was not coincidence. Patterns that looked like bad luck were actually unresolved spiritual permissions. And now those permissions are being revoked. You have been asking why doors kept closing just as you were about to walk through them. You wondered why momentum would build only to collapse without warning. You questioned why resources would appear and vanish just as quickly. You felt like your efforts were never fully rewarded. Like your climb always had an extra weight attached to your legs. That was not your incompetence. That was resistance that existed before you even had language to recognize it. But resistance has an expiration. Tonight marks the conclusion of a chapter that began long before you were aware of it. And when something ends after surviving for so long, it doesn't exit quietly. It leaves with tension. It leaves with confrontation. It leaves with a final attempt to scare you into believing it still has power. Do not mistake noise for authority. Do not mistake agitation for victory. The most desperate sounds always come from battles that are already lost. You are not being attacked because you are weak. You are being countered because what is coming to you is significant. Threats always get loud before they lose relevance. I am not exposing everything at once because your nervous system is still catching up to the truth your spirit already knows. There are layers being peeled back from your understanding in stages so that you are not overwhelmed by the scale of what is shifting. You do not yet see the full map, but you will. One piece at a time. One confirmation at a time. One unexpected breakthrough at a time. Tonight is not about destruction. It is about release. There is something that has been feeding on your effort without giving you rest. There is something that has been drawing from your momentum without allowing you to advance. There is something that has calculated your patterns and tried to box you inside familiar disappointments. That is what is ending. That is what is collapsing. That is what is losing its legal ground. You will not wake up tomorrow carrying the same internal pressure you have grown used to. You will still remember the past, but it will no longer define your capacity to breathe freely. You will still have responsibilities, but the invisible weight that made everything feel heavier than it should have will be gone. You will notice small differences first. A lighter mind. Clearer timing. Fewer delays. Better alignment. Unexpected ease in places that always felt blocked before. Do not despise the subtle confirmations. Earthquakes do not always announce themselves with noise. Some shifts happen like a quiet release under the surface that changes the entire structure without shaking the room. You are not being punished. You are being repositioned. You are not being abandoned. You are being relieved of what outlived its purpose. You are not losing control. You are finally being freed from something that never should have controlled you in the first place. And now listen carefully to this part, because this is where your understanding must mature. When something that has shaped your identity begins to leave, your emotions may feel conflicted. You may feel relief and fear at the same time. You may feel peace mixed with uncertainty. You may feel like celebrating and crying at once. That does not mean something is wrong. It means transformation is happening faster than your nervous system can interpret it. Healing often feels unfamiliar before it feels comfortable. You are not required to fully understand what is happening in order to benefit from it. You are only required to remain open instead of resist. Do not restart old habits just because the silence feels strange. Do not resurrect battles that have already ended just because you don't yet know how to live without them. Some struggles feel familiar enough to become emotional addictions. But familiarity is not safety. And chaos is not comfort, even when it's predictable. You are stepping into a quieter kind of strength now. A steadier kind of provision. A calmer kind of authority. Not everything valuable arrives with adrenaline. Some blessings enter with stability. The fear you once used as motivation will no longer be your fuel. The anxiety that used to push you forward will no longer be your engine. You will move now with clarity instead of panic. With direction instead of desperation. With faith instead of survival instincts. This is not the end of your responsibility. This is the end of your unnecessary suffering. You will still build. You will still work. You will still grow. But you will not bleed while doing it the way you used to. The excessive drainage is stopping. The emotional taxation is lifting. The internal negotiation for basic peace is over. There are people who assumed you would always be in the same position. They formed opinions about your future based on your delays. They measured your potential through the lens of your struggle. They spoke in subtle ways that revealed how small they expected your life to remain. But they were never your standard. They were only witnesses to a season they misunderstood. Do not argue with their expectations. Outgrow them quietly. Some relationships may feel awkward as you shift. Not because you changed into something wrong, but because they became comfortable with you carrying weight that made them feel lighter. Your healing will expose where imbalance once lived. That is not your fault. That is simply revelation through transformation. You will not need to announce your freedom. It will speak for itself. The next phase of your life will not require you to explain every delay or justify every blessing. It will simply unfold at a pace that reflects alignment instead of resistance. You will notice that some wishes you once begged for are now flowing naturally without the same strain. You will realize that some doors that once intimidated you now open without force. That is not coincidence. That is permission. There are financial shifts aligned with this release. Not reckless gain. Not chaotic overflow. But stable supply. Sustainable provision. Clear opportunities. Smarter decisions. Partnerships that don't drain you. Resources that don't disappear as quickly as they arrive. Wisdom that arrives before regret instead of after. You are not stepping into sudden fantasy wealth. You are stepping into lasting sufficiency that grows with integrity. Wealth that does not demand your peace as payment. Provision that does not humiliate you with uncertainty. Security that does not fluctuate with every emotional wave. You have lived too long in reaction mode. Now you will begin to move in intentional motion. Your prayers were not ignored. They were scheduled. Your delays were not denials. They were developments. Your silence was not abandonment. It was preparation. I know you questioned your worth based on your struggle. You compared yourself to those who seemed to move faster, rise quicker, and receive easier. You wondered why your path felt heavier when your heart was sincere. But weight does not mean rejection. Sometimes weight is simply resistance pressing against a calling that is larger than average. If your future were small, your battles would have been light. What is lifting from you tonight was never meant to finalize your story. It only served as evidence that you were built for more than the arena you were confined to. Now breathe. You do not have to force belief. You do not have to manufacture excitement. You do not have to pretend confidence. Just stay open. Stay soft. Stay willing to receive what no longer has to be fought for. Rest will no longer feel irresponsible. Peace will no longer feel unfamiliar. Stability will no longer feel suspicious. You will slowly learn to live without bracing for impact every time something good happens. You no longer have to flinch at joy. You no longer have to prepare for loss every time you experience gain. You no longer have to negotiate your happiness with fear. This is a recalibration of your emotional nervous system as much as it is a breakthrough in your circumstances. Some nights changed you. But this night restores you. Some seasons shaped you through pressure. But this season will shape you through peace. And now let me speak directly to the exhausted part of you that learned how to survive silently. You did enough. You pushed far enough. You endured longer than most would have. You showed up when you were empty. You kept hoping when you felt foolish for hoping. You believed when logic argued against you. That resilience was seen. That effort was registered. That faith was not misplaced. What leaves your life tonight is not your strength. It is what consumed your strength without permission. And what enters your life from this point forward will no longer demand your destruction as proof of your devotion. There is a quiet power growing in you right now that you do not yet recognize as strength. It does not feel like excitement. It does not feel like adrenaline. It feels like stability trying to settle into a nervous system that has been trained by chaos. That is why part of you feels uncomfortable even as relief begins to arrive. You lived so long in tension that your body learned to expect struggle as the normal state of existence. When peace approaches, your mind asks suspicious questions. When flow begins, your thoughts look for sabotage. When ease appears, your heart waits for the catch. This is not distrust. This is conditioning. And conditioning can be healed. You are not broken for feeling unsettled by good news. You are healing from prolonged pressure. And healing often feels strange before it feels safe. There will be moments where you feel like something is missing, not because something bad is happening, but because the fight that occupied your emotional space has ended. You will reach for stress out of reflex and realize it is no longer in the same place. You will brace for disappointment that never arrives. You will overthink outcomes that are already secured. That does not mean you are ungrateful. It means your inner world is learning a new rhythm. Let it learn. Do not reattach yourself to anxiety just to feel familiar again. Familiar does not mean faithful. Familiar does not mean true. Familiar does not mean permanent. Many people confuse repetition with destiny. But repetition only means something has not yet been interrupted. And what was repeating in your life has now been interrupted at the root. Your future will not mirror your past. It will reinterpret it. You will begin to notice that your reactions are changing before your circumstances fully do. The same problem that once stole your sleep will now barely disturb your focus. The same criticism that once cut deep will now lose its authority over your emotions. The same fear that once made your chest heavy will now pass through your thoughts without settling there. You are not becoming numb. You are becoming anchored. Anchored people are not easily shaken. You are entering a phase where you will not need emotional noise to feel alive. You will not need crisis to feel important. You will not need urgency to feel purposeful. Purpose will become steady instead of frantic. Direction will become clear instead of forced. You are stepping out of survival mode and into intentional living. And this shift will reroute your decisions. Where you once said yes out of fear of losing, you will now say yes out of alignment. Where you once tolerated what drained you because you feared being alone, you will now choose connection that nourishes you. Where you once stayed silent to keep peace, you will now speak with calm authority without creating war. Your voice will change first. Then your patterns will follow. Some people will not recognize you at first. Not because you have become someone else, but because you have returned to who you were before pressure shaped your personality around defense. You will smile differently. You will listen differently. You will respond instead of react. You will no longer rush to prove your worth through exhaustion. And that will confuse those who only knew you in survival mode. Do not take their confusion as a sign you are wrong. It is simply evidence that growth has disturbed familiar expectations. You do not owe anyone the old version of yourself. You are allowed to evolve without explanation. There will also be moments where you grieve the version of you that suffered quietly to keep others comfortable. Not because you enjoyed the suffering, but because that version of you carried a certain innocence, a certain hope that was bruised by delay. You are allowed to honor that version without returning to that version. Growth does not erase history. It redeems it. Every tear you shed while praying in secret contributed to the authority you now carry in unseen realms. Every moment you chose integrity when compromise would have been easier strengthened your spiritual foundation. Every time you trusted when you felt foolish rewired your capacity for future faith. Nothing was wasted. Even the pain that felt meaningless was forming endurance that would soon support expansion. You are not behind time. You are aligning with it. Your life will not look like a rushed miracle that fades quickly. It will look like a steady build that cannot be easily dismantled. Some blessings come like storms. Others come like seasons. This one comes like spring. Slow warmth, quiet restoration, consistent growth that becomes undeniable over time. Be patient with the pace. The speed of healing does not determine the power of outcome. What grows gradually often becomes unshakable. There are financial shifts connected to this release that will not look dramatic at first. You may not wake up to headlines. You may not receive instant visibility. But you will begin to notice something far more valuable: consistency. You will begin to notice that money does not disappear as quickly as it once did. That needs are met without panic. That resources stretch further than expected. That decisions feel wiser instead of reactive. You will no longer feel like you are chasing money. Money will begin to align with your movement naturally. You will recognize opportunities that once passed you by unnoticed. You will speak with clarity in rooms where you once felt small. You will negotiate without shrinking. You will walk into spaces that once intimidated you with quiet confidence instead of loud bravado. The need to prove will fade. The ability to position will rise. What you attract next will not require you to betray yourself to maintain it. You are also being repositioned relationally. Not all through confrontation. Some through quiet drifting apart. Some through natural distance. Some through inner detachment that happens without argument. You may notice that certain conversations no longer stimulate you. Certain environments drain your energy faster than before. Certain dynamics feel heavy even when nothing obvious is wrong. That is not judgment. That is alignment. You will no longer be able to thrive in spaces that require you to shrink your perspective to fit the comfort of others. You will not be able to laugh at what once offended your spirit just to maintain familiarity. You will not be able to pretend confusion where clarity has already arrived. This is not arrogance. This is maturity. Growth often feels lonely at first because it outpaces the environment that once felt like home. But it makes space for a new community calibrated to who you are becoming, not who you had to be to survive. There is also something happening inside your identity. You are no longer defining yourself by what you lack. You are beginning to recognize yourself by what you carry. You are not just someone trying to avoid failure. You are someone learning to steward success. That shift alone will change how you approach everything. You will start asking different questions. Instead of, what if this doesn't work, you will begin to ask, what if it does? Instead of, what if I lose everything, you will begin to ask, what if this multiplies? Instead of, why does this always happen to me, you will begin to ask, what is this developing in me? Your inner dialogue is the first environment any future must pass through. And your inner dialogue is being rewritten. There will still be challenges ahead. This is not a promise of a conflict-free life. But the nature of your battles will shift. You will no longer be fighting for survival. You will be fighting for refinement. You will no longer be fighting for basic stability. You will be fighting for expansion. You will no longer be fighting to stay afloat. You will be fighting to scale new ground. Different battles require different versions of you. And the version rising now is not built to beg. It is built to choose. You will become selective with your time. You will become protective of your peace without feeling guilty. You will begin to understand that access to you is a responsibility, not a right. And you will stop apologizing for boundaries that preserve your mental and emotional health. You will also stop attracting situations that feed on your self-doubt. Confidence quietly repels manipulation. Some of your prayers will begin to answer themselves through your own decisions. You will look back and realize that what you once begged for externally you were being built to create internally. And now, let me speak to the part of you that still wonders, what if this change doesn't last? That question does not come from disbelief. It comes from memory. Memory remembers nights when hope rose and then collapsed. Memory remembers promises that seemed close and then drifted away. Memory remembers the ache of getting excited too soon. But this shift is not built on hype. It is built on alignment. Alignment sustains what excitement cannot. You will not be carried forward by emotion alone. You will be carried forward by clarity, consistency, and conviction. Those three create momentum that circumstance cannot easily interrupt. You are also entering a season where your discernment will sharpen. You will recognize intentions before words. You will sense shifts in atmosphere before outcomes. You will notice small inconsistencies that once went ignored. Not so you can become suspicious, but so you can become selective. Your peace will be expensive. And you will finally be willing to protect it. You will no longer rush to prove loyalty by tolerating harm. You will no longer mistake endurance for love. You will no longer confuse attachment with assignment. Some people were connected to your survival, not your destiny. And their chapter does not extend into your next volume. Let go without hatred. Release without bitterness. Distance without guilt. Your heart will remain soft even as your boundaries become firm. That balance is wisdom. You will also begin to dream again in ways you stopped allowing yourself to. Not frantic dreams driven by escape. Grounded dreams built on possibility. You will imagine without panic. Plan without dread. Visualize without fear of disappointment swallowing you. That alone is evidence of healing. The future will start to feel like a field instead of a wall. You will still remember where you came from. But you will no longer live there emotionally. You will carry the wisdom without carrying the weight. You will tell the story without reopening the wound. You will remember the lessons without reliving the suffering. This is what freedom looks like in real life, not perfection, not constant pleasure, but the absence of chains you once thought were part of you. Some nights you will still feel tired. But it will be the tiredness of effort, not oppression. Some days you will still feel stretched. But it will be the stretch of growth, not suffocation. Some weeks you will still face uncertainty. But it will not terrorize your identity like it once did. Because now your foundation is not built on outcomes. It is built on alignment. And alignment carries its own authority. There is a new steadiness settling into your spirit now, and you may not fully recognize it yet because chaos taught your emotions to move fast. Calm feels slow at first. Peace feels unfamiliar when you have lived in urgency for too long. But this steadiness is not weakness. It is power that no longer needs to shout to prove itself. You will notice that you no longer feel the same desperation to control outcomes. You will still care deeply, but you will not panic deeply. The difference matters. Panic drains the future before it arrives. Care protects it while it grows. This is how you will know that the internal shift is real. You will still desire progress, but you will no longer be driven by fear of lack. You will still pursue growth, but you will no longer be pushed by anxiety of collapse. That internal switch is subtle, but it changes everything. What once ruled you now answers to you. You will begin to recognize how many of your old decisions were shaped by survival instead of vision. You chose quickly because you feared waiting. You settled early because you feared missing out. You overextended because you feared being left behind. None of that made you foolish. It made you human under pressure. But pressure is no longer your master. You are being taught how to choose with discernment instead of urgency. How to invest with wisdom instead of fear. How to rest without guilt. How to wait without anxiety. These are not skills people learn in easy seasons. These are abilities forged only when survival loosens its grip and vision begins to take its place. You will begin to feel time differently. Days will no longer feel like they are chasing you. Nights will no longer feel like they are swallowing you. You will begin to inhabit moments instead of racing through them. That alone will heal parts of your mind you didn't even know were strained. You will stop measuring your worth by your speed. You will stop judging your value by comparison. You will stop questioning your future based on your past. You are not late. You are aligned. And alignment moves with precision, not panic. There are conversations that will take place in your life that will surprise you. Not loud confrontations. Quiet confirmations. People you assumed were distant will reappear with unexpected sincerity. Doors you assumed were sealed will open through routes you never anticipated. Help will come from angles you stopped considering long ago. You will realize that the delay you once hated quietly protected you from attachments that would have cost you far more than they promised to give. You will look back and understand why certain prayers were postponed instead of answered immediately. You were not being ignored. You were being shielded from premature victory that would have collapsed under the weight of unprepared responsibility. Now you are ready. Not perfect. Ready. Your emotional reflexes are changing. Your decision-making is stabilizing. Your inner world is no longer ruled by insecurity. That is readiness. You are also being trained to receive without suspicion. To accept without guilt. To enjoy without bracing for loss. That part may take time, and that is okay. You do not need to force gratitude into performance. Let it grow naturally as your nervous system learns that peace is no longer temporary. Some blessings arrive wrapped in silence at first. Do not underestimate the quiet wins. There will be small signs that confirm what is shifting, a bill that resolves more easily than expected, a call that comes at the right moment, clarity that replaces confusion without effort, tension leaving your body without explanation, sleep returning without struggle, joy surfacing without reason. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. You will notice too that your intuition will sharpen. You will feel when something aligns and when it doesn't without needing external permission. You will not need constant reassurance to trust your perception. The noise that once clouded your discernment is thinning. You will become harder to deceive. Not because you are suspicious. Because you are settled. There is a grounded authority forming inside you now. Not dominance. Not control. Sovereignty. The ability to stand in yourself without shrinking. The ability to speak without over-explaining. The ability to be still without being insecure. The ability to listen without losing yourself in others' expectations. That stability will quietly command respect even where you are not seeking it. You will also become more selective with what you emotionally carry. You will stop absorbing the stress of others out of obligation. You will care without carrying. Love without losing center. Support without self-erasure. That balance will feel revolutionary to you at first. It is not. It is what you were always meant to live. Your compassion will become cleaner. Your kindness will become lighter. Your generosity will become wiser. You will give from overflow instead of depletion. Your heart will become softer toward the past without reopening old wounds. That is how you will know healing has reached the root.